Hello and welcome to the Team VVV podcast for all your weekly racing game rambles. I'm Martin, and joining me as ever is Kevin.
Hello.
Alan.
Hello, viewers.
And Ed.
Hey, everyone.
If you enjoy the podcast, do like and subscribe. It helps support what we do and all that. This week we are giving away a Forza Motorsport 6 Porsche expansion, as well as our Thrustmaster TMX wheel. That's also still running at the moment. So if you want to win either of those, do check out the website for more details. So in this week's podcast, really the main focus is going to be Ride 2 and WRC 6, because obviously this week they are the two major releases, both out on the same day, which was obviously very well thought out. Yeah. But there we are. I thought we'd start with WRC 6. You can see our preview and developer interview on the website at the moment. That goes into some detail really as to all the improvements you can expect directly from the developers. On the whole, from what I've played so far, I'm pretty impressed, to be honest. There've been a lot of improvements across the board, really, since WRC 5, especially considering how short the development time has been, really. We've only just got our hands on the game, so at this point we can give a few sort of early impressions, if you like. So, Kevin, what were your thoughts so far?
Yeah, like you say, across the board improvements. Things like sound, the graphics, all that, which you would expect slight improvements. But apart from that, there's improvements in presentation. The whole package just seems like a more finished product compared to last year's. Which is understandable because it was, WRC 5 was their first venture into the rally scene. So progress is looking good. In terms of audio, I was particularly surprised with the audio, actually. On low speeds, you get this really sort of bassy tone, and it feels like you're driving something really sort of substantial, and it does give you that sort of thrill. But so far, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm having the most fun, actually, with the junior WRC and the WRC2 cars, whereas the proper WRC cars are quite a handful. So it's going to take a little bit of time to really sort of dial into those cars. But so far, yeah, really impressed.
I guess that's really a testament then to the improved physics, if you're noticing the differences between the car classes.
Oh, absolutely. And the junior WRC, very much low on power compared to the proper WRC, but they're just so fun to drive. They're not boring. They're not stale. They feel lively. I've tried it with the wheel. I haven't yet tried the controller, but I imagine the controller will be, top notch because it was pretty decent in number 5. So, with the wheel, force feedback is not the best, which was a complaint we had with 5. But I normally have force feedback on quite low, but with WRC 6, I found I had to sort of bump it up a bit to get that feedback. But one or two little niggles here and there. But overall, I think it's so far from what I've played, I'm pretty impressed.
So far, so good then. Yeah, the thing that strikes me is the co-driver sounds. They're still a bit.
Yeah, very busy, aren't they? That they fire these, these directions at you, left, right, and centre, and you've got to try and make sense of them. And some calls, to me, I can't understand what some of the calls are actually saying. So it is a little bit confusing, but it does take time to sort of really dial into the rally games once you haven't played them for a little while and really get to absorb those calls. But it is pretty tricky. Yeah,
I think they just don't they lack that flow of dirt rally, though. I think that it's really noticeable to me.
Yeah, the authenticity is not there, is it?
Cut the commands together.
Yeah, so it's improved over 5, but again, it's got quite a way to go, isn't it? But overall, I think they've done a decent job considering it's just 1 year development time. But again, we'll be looking for more improvements for next year's WRC 7, assuming they can keep hold of the license.
Indeed, we'll have to wait and see. And any more thoughts to add, Alan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was fair to see in the E3 build that it's moved on quite a long way from last year. I mean, last year's game I think was misunderstood. I think that, and I'll probably say it again in the future, but it was a cross-platform game. But it was a lot of fun today to play. Just visually, it was dated basically. This time they've updated the visuals and refined pretty much every area. So I think within a year's work, I think it's moved on well. It's going to appeal to a different audience to Dirt Rally. I was able to drive a stage with a controller okay. Dirt Rally was an awful lot more difficult. So, so far so good, but I haven't played it with a wheel, so I'm going to go away, play it with a wheel, and then I'll come back with some more impressions next week.
Fair enough. Have you played it yet, Ed?
Yeah, I gave it a quick go today, just before we started up the podcast. But for me, I felt like the smaller inputs that I needed to do on sort of longer areas of the circuit were quite difficult on the wheel. Just there's not like a dead zone or anything that's messing you up. It's just I felt like I was getting into a couple of tank slappers when I wasn't expecting to.
Yeah, I had that. Yeah, I had that. I had that on a straight section. You're giving it little touches, and it just starts to spin out, and then you can't save it.
Yeah, that, and sometimes my brake inputs were having far too much rotational effect on the car. So sometimes I'd be going into a corner and I'd just be using the brakes, obviously, to slow down, but it would almost give the front tyres like a sudden super amount of grip, and I'd just spin almost into the corner, which is a bit weird. But I think all these things are just little bits that just you have to sort of get used to as you're playing the game. And I was sort of starting to get into it. Obviously, I've had very limited time on it, but
have you tried to adjust some of the settings?
Yeah. I actually turned the force feedback down myself, because obviously we all feel it a bit different and try and adjust it to our own tastes. But I adjusted the force feedback right down for me, and I started to get used to it. Again, I think Kevin mentioned already the co-driver as well. You've got to get used to what they're saying and what kind of track you're going to have ahead of you. Something I had to get used to was sometimes they'll say the corners are 6, but it's tightening to a 1. And sometimes, if you don't notice that he said it's tightening to a 1, because the picture at the top of the screen just says 6 with a little red arrow.
Yeah, you'll be in trouble then.
So, yeah, you're coming out a corner thinking you're going into a 6, but actually it's like nearly a hairpin.
Who'll put that tree there?
Yeah, exactly. There's a tree on the inside, and it's turning into a hairpin, and you just go up to the corner. You're like, ah! But yeah, once you get used to that sort of stuff, then it starts to get pretty fun. The handbrake is really good. Handbrake works
much better than WRC5, actually, I have to say. Yeah.
Oh, WRC5's handbrake was awful. So yeah, it's great to see that improvement. But like Ed says, you've got to approach it differently to, say, like a dirt rally. And once you understand the gaming world that it's in, it starts to become fun. But it does take a little bit of time to get used to the controls.
Yeah. Have you guys tried any of the super special stages yet?
Oh, not yet. No, looking forward to that.
I did the driver test one, which is on a super special space.
That's true, actually. Yeah, that's the race start, isn't it? Yeah. They're quite a different sort of challenge to the main stages, but I quite enjoy them myself.
The hay bales are very heavy, so you got to avoid those.
Yeah. I think too, there's a lot more atmosphere this time. There's more crowds and things like that. And I noticed too the fact that you actually see the other drivers drive off before you at the start of the stage, which is nice to see.
Yeah, it's little things like that, isn't it? It just adds more character to the game, more believability, and more presentation, which was lacking in titles like Assetto Corsa, for example, which just seemed a little bit too deadpan, a little bit too serious. So it's nice to see these little bits here and there, just to add a little bit more flavour and personality to the game.
Yeah, it's just a shame. It
shows what sort of audience they're going for. When you look at Assetto Corsa and there's not much going on, you can tell it's really focused on the physics and how the car feels and things like that. But other games have to consider appealing to as many people as possible.
No, exactly. I mean, WRC being a licensed game, it has to appeal to a much broader audience. But I think they've got a pretty good balance overall between accessibility and fun.
Yeah,
but still offering enough challenge for more hardcore players if they want it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it's still not on the level of Dirt Rally though with Sebastian Loeb. Just to make that clear.
But that's not a bad thing, is it? That's
no, exactly. There's room in the market for that.
We certainly don't want titles that are copies of one another. So it's good to have
exactly
different levels of simulation, if you like, within the market. So it's good to see. Yeah,
exactly. Okay, well, we'll probably go into a bit more detail in WRC6 in another podcast, and we've had a bit more chance to play it through.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that leads us on to Ride 2, which is out on the same day for some reason.
Yeah.
Why do they not look at the release schedules of other games? But nevertheless, it's coming this week. My first impressions, well, the loading times are slightly better. I'll say that much.
Yes.
I didn't have time to go away and make a cup of tea like last time. That's a good that's a good indication, at least.
Yeah.
You've probably played the most out of all of us, Kevin. Obviously, your overview video went up recently. How are you finding it so far compared to the original game? Is it a big step up, would you say?
Well, the original Ride I actually played on the PlayStation 3. So obviously graphically it was a big step up.
It would be, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know what, I'm really enjoying Ride 2, actually. I did enjoy the first title, but it just seems like Ride 2 is Ride with more bolted on. So you've got more game modes, you've got more tracks, you've got more bikes, obviously. I like the career mode, I like the progression. I like the fact that they've got the invitational events there. You've got other events as well that you can unlock during the sort of career mode or the World Tour mode, I think it's called. And yeah, I just like the way they've set up the events. There's restrictions regarding performance points or say the engine CC. So yeah, I mean, so far I've really enjoyed it. Looking forward to progressing on in the World Tour mode, unlocking all the bikes. That's one thing actually is they don't give you access to all the bikes. You have to unlock the bikes through the World Tour mode, which may frustrate some players.
Were they all unlocked in the original Ride though? I thought you had to rent. They had a handful that you could rent in the.
Yeah, actually, I think it probably is. Yeah, I think you're right actually, but I guess I'm being spoiled with other games.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it did take excessively long though, because you had to buy your bike and then upgrade your bike, and you end up spending all your money on one bike.
Yeah,
and in the end, you do get a handful, but you're never going to get all of them. So, yes, you've got to make it a way to people earn the bikes. Absolutely, I don't mind that, but you've got to make it within reason possible to buy, say, 10 or 20 bikes you really like. At least, in a very short amount of time.
It's not too bad. There is quite big money rewards, but you do have that attachment to the first few bikes that you buy and you upgrade them. And it's nice to have that attachment because that's what you get in games like Gran Turismo with your little K cars, little Japanese box cars, and you get a nice attachment. And that's when you really sort of have the most fun, in my opinion, with these games where you're struggling through, if you like. You're building on top of this really crappy machine, but you're slowly getting the upgrades in place. You're getting faster and faster, and for me, that's really enjoyable.
Definitely for players sort of in it for the long haul. Then, from what we can gather by the sounds of it,
it's a pretty substantial World Tour mode. So it's going to take a lot of investment of time, and I think bikers and people that like bike games are going to love this game.
It's still got that sort of paint by numbers milestone presentation, though, hasn't it? With the creating riders and all that kind of thing we've done so many times before.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it's one of my main disappointments. They just love doing that. It just feels a bit copy and pasted from the last few games in that sense.
Yeah, it's interesting you should say copy and paste because there is the perfect trajectory mode.
Sebastian Loeb, exactly.
Sebastian Loeb, yeah, exactly. So, but it's interesting. It's really fun though in the Ride 2 because it's a totally different system, of course.
Yeah.
And once you nail it, once you get it right, it's thrilling because you avoiding the cones by millimeters at times.
Yeah.
You get a lovely flow through the cones. It just works brilliantly.
I guess in some ways it's better suited to Ride 2 in that sense.
Because you get to see where your front wheel is and a little bit easier, I guess. I'd love to see virtual reality with maybe Ride 3 in the future because I think that'd be really special.
That probably will happen.
I hope so.
Yeah, it's unclear actually what milestone of how involved they've been with VR so far. Unlike most developers, they've been keeping quite quiet about it.
Yeah, I didn't get the impression that they're going to be early adopters of it. I think that they're going to see how the technology develops and then come later.
Actually, saying that, that's very much the case with WRC 6 as well, because I played it in VR, but they're reluctant to release it yet until they sort of gauge the market reaction to it.
Yeah, I mean, both Killerton and Milestone have had issues with frame rates in their games.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's just a case of getting the game to look acceptable at 90 frames per second. That's a real challenge for these developers.
I wouldn't want to play WRC 5 in VR, put it that way.
No.
I mean, this is the thing. They need a solid, 90 frames per second, basically. So, that's going to be tough for some developers to work with the standard PS4 hardware, for example.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, it's like what the developer said in my preview. Some stages might work in WRC 6, for example, but then you factor in other things like the weather conditions and things like that, which obviously affect the performance.
Yeah.
So there's so much optimization that needs to be done. They really need to assess whether it's worthwhile.
I'm not sure how it is in WRC 6, but WRC 5 was very much a mixed bag, wasn't it? A performance. Certain finish stages, for instance, were terrible.
Oh, yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Nighttime stages were pretty bad, some of them. So it is a bit of a mixed bag. So you need that consistency before you can even consider putting in some VR support.
Yeah, exactly. When I was there, I deliberately played a finish stage on the PS4 version. You'll see a video of that shortly, and it did seem better, but obviously we'll have to compare other stages now we got the final game.
It's all those trees in Finland, that's what it is.
Exactly. We got off track here, actually. We were talking about Ride 2, weren't we?
Sorry.
That's all right. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. I'm still not liking, going back to Ride 2, I'm still not liking the helmet cam, personally. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I don't like it.
No, it's a step backwards from the first game.
2 reasons I don't like it is because the first one is the helmet is stuck. It's almost as if someone's got some black tape and stuck it on your screen. It doesn't move. And the second reason is it actually dulls the sound of the bike, and I don't like that. I like to hear the bike as clearly as possible. So I just go with the traditional first-person view over the helmet cam.
It's annoying because MXGP2 had the same problem, and the helmet cam was downgraded from the previous game.
Yeah.
You sort of lost that shaky cam effect that made it exciting.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's odd. And I don't know if people maybe complained about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was too smooth, wasn't it? It was like you're going over this rough terrain, this dirt surface, and it's like you're just gliding over it as if you got, the best suspension you've ever seen. And although it may, I guess, if you're looking through a driver's point of view for the eyes, you do have built-in suspension in your eyes, so you do negate a lot of that bumpiness. But then you have to ask the question, well, are we seeing it through the eyes, or are we seeing it from like a helmet cam, for example, which would be much more bumpier? And besides that, it's a game, so we want the game to be exciting, and a bit more shaky cam does add to the excitement. And Drive Club is a good example of that.
We say it every time, but Drive Club Bikes is just the benchmark when it comes to everything, really. Graphics, audio, camera work, everything.
Shaky cam done right, I would say.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I'm just wondering if I wonder if Marston had bad feedback, perhaps, of the shaky cam effects.
It's possible, isn't it? Because
I can't think of any other reason why they'd remove it.
It's nice to have the option, though, isn't it? So everyone's happy.
It wasn't great before, but I think it's still necessary to kind of convey that that kind of raw exhilaration.
Especially considering it's 30 FPS. If it was 60, then perhaps the shaky cam may not be needed as much. But at 30, you really need that little bit of help, and so the shaky cam certainly does that. And Drive Club again is a great example.
Yeah. What about the audio? Obviously, they've made quite a big thing about the audio being improved, but I've not been played it enough to make an informed judgment. But is it really improved that much?
Good question.
Sure. After playing WRC 6, for example, there is a definite improvement, but I'm not too sure about Ride 2 yet. Need to play some more bikes.
I would say there are slight improvements, but again, they've got quite a way to go before they really capture the essence of these bikes.
Yeah. No, that's it. What about yourself, Malin? Have you had much chance to play it yet?
Not limited time since I've actually sort of had it here to go on it. Just a couple of races round, feeling more comfortable with it. But I did have some cracking races on that first day playing it, and I'll pick up those bikes and really get into it again. I think for me it was just positive after not liking MotoGP 15 this year. It was really positive for me to get onto Ride and get that old handling with refinement back again. And as you start to dial the bike in, it's really rewarding. So I think impressions were good. It ran well. It looked nice. The draw distances were excellent. As Ed mentioned before, the responsiveness of the throttle was excellent. But it is going to require a lot of skill to do right. So the only track I found that for me wasn't as good was a Nordschleife. I just found it a bit. I found the textures were a little bit bland, and it just lacked a bit of atmosphere to it. But some of the other circuits were really good. So yeah, so far so good. But I need some time to get into it. I'm trying to get my PC version working. I haven't yet. But when I do, I can play it in lovely 60 frames per second.
Because that's what really counts.
That's what counts. And then I'll certainly dive into that and run a video on it as well.
What about yourself, Ed? Have you played it yet?
I haven't been able to yet. No, I don't think the Xbox codes have worked for me just yet. So
of course, yeah.
You get down to that,
or Xbox One players.
Yeah, I'll be able to give you the Xbox verdict though, if there's any differences or anything like that in terms of graphics.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll let you know once I do have a go.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure actually if Master Race games have any sort of history in terms of worst performance on the Xbox One.
And that's difficult to know. Ride was, as I understand, definitely better on the PS4 than the Xbox One. But they do have a day one patch, and I think there's another patch coming as well. So there might be two patches when it's released. But I will say that they seem to be moving forward in terms of they're going to stick with this game. They're going to keep developing it. They're not going to drop it when it's released. They've
had a bad habit before of just not supporting the games at all.
No, and they seem adamant that this time it will not be the case. They will stick with this. They will do free DLC. They will update it, and they've got more to add. So we'll wait and see.
Also, it's promising. I think we said before, but I remember in the original Ride, it took so long for them to fix that bloody save game glitch. You knew I was going to say that. Yeah,
that was the worst bug I've probably ever encountered in a racing game.
I just couldn't play it.
Yeah, it was
because of that.
Soul destroying, wasn't it, when it hit you, because you lose all your progress. Oh no. Yeah, you work you out the rankings and it just wipes all that out. Oh.
Yeah, they seem to have a bit more quality control. I think it's fair to say now, hopefully.
Yeah, things go in the right direction, like Alan said. And, I'm really looking forward, actually, to Milestone in 2017, just to see what they can come up with next, because you never quite know. I mean, we had the Radio Controls DLC. I mean, who knew that was coming? So, it's interesting. They keep you on your toes anyway, so it'd be interesting to see what they come up with next.
I think they just maybe need to sort of tone down the number of games they're releasing.
Yeah, 3 a year would be good.
I mean, 3 a year would be good for most developers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
To be honest, is it 5 or 6 games they've released this year, something like that?
5, if you include the Ducati sort of Ride expansion or spin-off.
It's very busy, isn't it? I mean, recently they released the remote control car mode for Valentino Rossi. And I look at something like that and I think that should have been in the game. It should have been free DLC, or it should have been in the game as an unlock. That's the sort of thing that would have been a cheat in a game years ago. Now it's sold as DLC. And I think they do sort of almost artificially bump up their calendar so there's something happening every single month of the year. And I think sometimes it would have been better to focus on particular launches and get those titles just right. But I do think things are changing there all the time. I mean, the technology has improved a lot over the last couple of years.
Yes.
And, it's gradually getting there. I think, they need one more generation of consoles. I mean, perhaps on the Scorpio, they're finally going to be hitting 60 frames and hitting their overall target. So,
actually, from what you said about the DLC, I noticed, for example, in Valentino Rossi, they released the MotoGP 15 real events as DLC this time, whereas usually that's a standard feature in each game.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
So that does kind of show they're trying to get more out of the DLC by the looks of it now.
I guess in fairness, though, they did release a lot of content in the base game for Valentino Rossi.
Oh, yeah. It was just the fact it was a standard feature normally in the previous MotoGP games.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the sort of thing that kind of irritates me about modern DLC. DLC, go back many, many years ago, and a developer would make a complete game, and then they'd say, right, we would like to make more in this game, and they would work on it and release it separately as a pack. Now you find out that some of the elements to the DLC is already in the game. It's already been made before the game's even shipped. They just hold it back. That's why I think it's lost its meaning in that way.
Yeah, then you end up paying the same amount for a season pass, for example, as the original game.
Yeah, which is totally wrong.
Yeah,
it's
but
interesting as well. You were saying that remote control car bit should be like a cheat or something to unlock in a game. that I never even thought of that. I think I've got used to the modern era of DLC that I
Just
had
corrupted you.
completely forgotten about that. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were games that had cheats like that, you know, where all the cars and small or
Mm.
funny things happened or whatever, make this happen and make that happen. And, you know, I think a little mode like that would have been great to have had as a little cheat mode or something.
Actually,
Yeah.
talking of cheat mode, Riptide GP does actually have a big heads mode, which is something that harkens back to the old days where you
Yeah.
have these little cheats. Yeah,
It's
No
fair, I was going to
DLC,
say,
big
when's the
head
last time you
DLC.
saw a game with actual cheat modes in it?
yeah,
It's like split screen. It's a novelty.
yeah.
Little funny cheats were great. I mean, I think the last game that I bought that actually had something like that was probably Black Ops 1, Call of Duty Black Ops. You remember there was a couple of things you could do in that. You could like wriggle out of the seat that you're in when you're in the main menu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
computer behind you and you could play this game
Mm.
on the computer. That was really good.
Yeah.
This is going back a bit.
I think it's because games are so against the clock in being developed. I mean, so often we see games and we say that game needed another couple of months development. But the developers simply don't have time to properly finish a game and then maybe muck about adding something in. They just don't have the time, so it just never happens.
That's exactly it, isn't it? It's mucking about adding these features that,
Yeah.
unfortunately, things are a little bit too serious now, a little bit too stretched in terms of development time and budget. So it's a shame that we don't see these cheats very often.
No, this is going back a bit, but talking of cheats, do you remember in the original TOCA touring cars, the cheat for the tank?
Yeah.
You could actually drive a tank and fire weapons at the other cars. I remember that.
Yeah, big wheel cheats and all these silly little things.
Yeah, exactly. It's a shame we're not seeing more of that now.
Yeah, bit of fun.
I spent hours on Smuggler's Run, turning the gravity off and going and touching all the caravans and making them fly in the sky.
Oh,
That's
wow.
the best thing.
That's going back a bit as well. But yes, cheats. We want more cheats in new games. They're fun.
Yes, please.
Racing games are just becoming too serious for our liking now. But there we are. I guess we should probably do some racing game news then.
Yeah.
I guess one of the big talking points at the moment is Assetto Corsa yet again. Last week we were talking about the much anticipated patch update. Turns out it was actually released a day after we recorded it, after we were telling Kunos off for not delivering it in September.
Yeah.
But it seems to have fixed a lot of the issues in the original game, from the frame rate and the screen tearing. You also got lots of free content with the Black Country track and the Maserati. I've not had a lot of time to really check it out yet. Have you noticed much improvement, Kevin? Have you had a chance to check it out?
No, I haven't actually had the chance yet to check it out, so I'm looking forward to getting on that.
Okay. We will get round to doing that soon then, I guess.
Yes, next couple of days, yep.
Yeah, I mean, I've played Assetto Corsa since the patch. It runs, obviously the tearing has gone, which is brilliant. The frame rate for me has been improved. Digital Foundry did a video where they said the frame rate hasn't improved. Well, it has, but not with 15 cars, with 10 cars. With 10 cars on track, it was running nice at 60. It wasn't before. So with less cars, it runs very well. But with obviously 15, it still slows up a fair bit. But either way, it's some improvement. I played the Black Cat County track. And it's funny. It's a bit bland, honestly.
Yeah,
a bit bland, and it feels like a line of tarmac.
Because he's China bland.
Just stretching through. Yes, it's that kind of, because you've basically got this sort of layer of tarmac that's like carpet that's just gone round a map environment they've done, really. It doesn't seem like it's part of the environment. It doesn't seem weathered and dust covered. And it's the same with China on WRC 6. It's like someone's got a carpet of tarmac and they've just laid it along one big piece, and it just it's not weathered. It's not part of the scene, and it doesn't look very lifelike in that way. So it's another track, isn't it? But it does seem like it was made very quickly.
Yeah, you get that impression.
In a very short space of time. Doesn't use many textures, not much detail to it. It's just to say we have another track, you know.
Yeah, it was. I see what you mean. Yeah, it was kind of just thrown in to basically save a sort of new feature on the back of the box.
Basically, it. Yeah.
It's like the back of the box obligations, new content, more or less. But yeah, going back to Assetto Corsa, we got obviously the launch of the Prestige Pack and Japanese Pack this week. Actually, with the update, I should point out it's not available on Xbox One yet, so poor Ed is still left out.
Sad face.
Yeah,
they're a bit behind on the Xbox One content.
They're
saying that the
an
Prestige
approval
Pack came out
process,
for
maybe.
Xbox One first.
Like I've heard stuff about approval processes with Xbox.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if maybe that could be something to do with the hold up. I
Probably.
don't think I've heard anything about it though.
It's kind of funny though, because the update's out for PS4 but not Xbox One, whereas the Xbox One has had the Prestige Pack since last week.
Yeah, it sort of goes against the what they were saying before. We're going to develop all three consoles at the same time, and already they're sort of not quite managing that. So it doesn't bode well for the future, does it?
No, they're not quite delivering on that promise.
No.
So yeah, Japanese Pack and Prestige Pack are coming out October 7th. So you got how many cars? That's 7 cars in the Japanese Pack.
Yeah,
It's the same one as it's the same one we had on the PC, obviously.
Yeah, there's 10 cars in total if you include the sort of the variants.
Yeah.
But basically it's 7 models, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see the Prestige Pack coming out so soon as well, because obviously that was exclusive to the Prestige Edition, the physical copy.
Yeah.
Before, so I'm quite pleased to see that. I can finally drive my Mustang.
Yes.
I'm a bit of a Mustang fanboy, so I was a bit disappointed it wasn't in the main game, especially when it was featured in loads of advertising trailers.
Yeah, which kind of backfired on them, didn't it?
Yeah, there we go. And then, of course, we got the Porsche expansions coming out at some point. So there's been some interesting controversy on that one, because they came out saying that they're going to be releasing some free Porsche content. So you've got, I can't remember the exact figure now, it's over 20 Porsches in all the expansion packs.
Yeah, so as soon as you hear that, you're thinking 911s, your brain wanders off. Oh, what we're going to get, looking forward to this.
Yeah, but
what do we get?
They're going to release 3 Porsches, free of charge, and you're going to get the Porsche Panamera, the Porsche Cayenne, and the Porsche Macan.
What?
Yeah, those are the Porsches.
Those are the Porsches we all remember.
Exactly, from your dreams.
Nightmares.
In the Nürburgring tourist car park, and that's probably the most realistic place to put them, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's safe to say this hasn't gone down well with the community. There's been so much outrage that the one of the developers has actually had to make a public statement on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
I think people are taking it a little bit too far. I mean, at the end of the day, it is still free content.
Yeah, it's just not the content they expected. But then, a bit more transparency from Kunos, and they wouldn't have had this backlash, I guess. I don't know. I'm not really sure where I stand on this one, but
it's a tricky one.
Yeah.
We basically live in a world where people are playing like free content in a racing game.
I think what it is. I mean, I think that that people were who weren't aware these Porsche models existed. They know the conventional Porsches, and they felt maybe that Kunos could have been a bit more clear in what the cars were, so as not to disappoint. So the audience were just disappointed. I think that they had a rant, and there we are. I don't think it was necessarily about being free DLC content. I think it was just the fact of what it was. But I think you also need to, grow a brain sometimes, because if you know that there are Porsche packs, DLC packs coming, then use some common sense and realise to yourself the best Porsches are going to be in the DLC Porsche packs, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to be getting a Le Mans bloody Porsche for free, are you? Or a 911. It's just not going to happen, So I think there's a little bit of common sense there. But yeah, it would have been nice to have had something, You never know, maybe a Porsche remote control car would have gone down well. But, yeah, I mean, I think that it's all mountains out of molehills, really.
I don't think it wanted anywhere near the backlash it's had.
No, I think you have to consider, though, the fact that they launched the game in a pretty rough state as well, so that certainly didn't help matters.
Yeah. And they are still small. They are still a small developer as well. At the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's fantastic that they have this Porsche pack coming. It's such an amazing manufacturer to get, especially seeing as for years it's been completely owned by EA Games, almost. So like it's been great. Like when I think was it Forza 4 or Forza 5
Yes.
that got a Porsche expansion? Was it both?
So yeah, it started in Forza 4, and that was like the first big game that wasn't Need for Speed to get Porsche added.
Yeah.
But, to see it in a game like Assetto Corsa is a big milestone, really, because obviously it is a thoroughbred simulation. We haven't really had the opportunity to drive Porsches in such a advanced simulation racing game before.
It's going to be amazing as well to have the P1, the LaFerrari, and the 918.
Oh yes, exactly.
In a game like Assetto Corsa is probably the best opportunity ever on any sim racer. It's amazing.
And just in time for the Grand Tour coming out next month.
Oh yes.
Yes, just in time. They've been out with James Corden today doing questions. And,
Oh goodness.
I did see that actually. Yeah,
he's been doing his talk and drive with them, where they've been the ones doing driving for a change. You know,
Did they look sunburnt to you guys? They look very red in the face to me.
a little bit. Yeah, it was interesting when he asked Jeremy if he missed Top Gear. He's like, "Oh no, ask me something else."
Absolutely, yeah. No, it was quite funny. You know, it's sort of the Top Gear fair stuff, wasn't it? Really. But as I say, there's a lot of fans going to be looking forward to it. Wow, there is pressure on this series to do well. They've spent millions. I've probably mentioned this before, but I was meeting somebody recently who knew someone who works on their show, and they said normally when you're seeing the cars racing over the mountains, they have one helicopter, and then he said, but for the Grand Tour they had 4 helicopters, and nobody was asking the cost. They said if they want 4 helicopters, they get 4 helicopters. So
it sounds so much like them, doesn't it? Just completely bombastic
filming and angles and stupidness and explosions. It's all coming. So
I read the other day actually. Apparently, I mean, this is coming from The Sun, obviously a very reliable news source in the UK. But apparently, the opening scene cost $3 million to make, just for the opening scene.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I love it. It's just
it's ridiculous.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Do you know?
What is that going to be?
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, where they come from. I mean, the original Top Gear was a motoring show, very serious, and you know, it's evolved into this big monster, basically.
Oh yeah.
It's just incredible.
It's just going to be a huge parade of supercars, I expect, in some really exotic location with fighter jets and explosions. And
one of my favourite Top Gear reviews was actually when somebody wrote in saying they were spending too much money or something like that, and it wasn't sensible car reviews. So then he reviewed this Ford, whatever it was, and he was driving around, and it was good for each little situation, and the dials worked, and the dash felt good, and a really nice little car. And then next minute, he's driving out of the ocean on D-Day, and it's like 1,000 soldiers like shooting on the beaches and blowing stuff up.
Yeah, is this good enough for you?
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant, and I really enjoyed that episode. Many years ago, that was on now. But
very good, useful consumer advice.
Yes, that was what it was all about. Yeah, fantastic.
But yeah, that's only about a month away now, the Grand Tour. Have you got your Amazon Prime subscriptions yet?
Yeah, I have.
No, I haven't
used my dad's one. I'm sorry.
So yeah, I'll be watching that. You know, seeing how it goes. Rather randomly, I will just say I watched Westworld last night and really enjoyed that as well. Looking forward to that. That's probably my big new series at the moment, Westworld. I've been looking forward to that. So it fills my gap, you know, until Walking Dead comes out in a few weeks' time. So,
okay, cool. I'm a fan of Walking Dead as well. Yeah,
I'm a big fan as well.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
How did we get onto that?
Just a bit of Amazon Prime. It just brought me onto. Hold on.
True.
Yeah.
Well, if we could like return the segue, just put it into reverse. We were talking about the Porsche 918 versus the P1, the LaFerrari, and that took us onto the Grand Tour.
Yes.
I think we definitely have to do like a review of all three. Sort of just if we can get, if the Porsche pack comes out before they manage to cover it on the Grand Tour, then we should like do it before them. That'd be amazing. But also, I think there is something on YouTube that people could see. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Chris Harris did a comparison of all three quite a while ago, actually. I think it was months ago that he did that.
did, yes.
If you guys saw that, that was very interesting.
I guess because they made such a big deal of it in Top Gear, the fact they couldn't get those cars in some sort of showdown. Obviously, a lot of channels are going to sort of capitalise on that before the Grand Tour does it. Do all those cars feature in Forza Horizon 3?
Porsche's not in there.
Porsche's not on it, okay. Yeah, I was going to lead that on to Forza Horizon 3 because there's a new DLC pack out for it.
Just go with it anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. How am I going to steer this back to Forza Horizon 3? No, that backfired, but never mind. Yeah, so Smoking Tires pack has just come out. Quite an interesting lineup of cars, as usual. The kind of typical variety we come to expect, really, from the Forza car packs.
Yeah.
The Aston Martin Vulcan, GTA Spano, BMW M2, Pagani Huayra BC, a 4 Crown Victoria police car, wasn't expecting that, Lotus 340R, and a Jeep CJ5 Renegade. Like I said, typical Forza variety, really. Just that every single time they seem to surprise us with something new.
And for me, I like the Jeep myself personally. I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting sort of novelty car, isn't it?
It is.
Really suits the environment of Forza Horizon 3. Obviously, much more emphasis on off-roading.
Yep.
I think the GTA Spano is the first time it's ever featured in Forza.
Okay.
I think. Don't quote me on that. It was, I think it was released in Drive Club. And I think it's been in Need for Speed, and that's about it. So that's quite a sort of rare car.
Yeah, I'm not actually familiar with that car myself.
No, it's quite an obscure car. I'm forgetting now where its origins. I want to look it up. I should know these things.
I'm hoping. Well, the first thing I'm going to try is there's a particular engine that you can put into quite a few of the cars that you wouldn't expect, which is I think it's a V12 out of a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
That you can put into like ridiculous cars like Jeeps and things in Forza Horizon 3. So the first thing I'm going to do with that Jeep that's in this car pack is see if I can put the V12 in it and just drive it at 200 miles an hour down the highways. That would be great.
Why not? If you can do it, why not? Good to see the Aston Martin Vulcan make an appearance as well. Obviously, that was in the last series of Top Gear. Someone managed to get it back on topic with Top Gear.
Again,
I don't think that's featured in many racing games.
No.
I can't think of any that it's featured in.
They do get these odd ones, don't they? Or these more sort of exclusive.
I mean, it just shows how Forza is just the car list they have in those games are just second to none.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say, and every DLC pack seems to surprise us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is rare. I mean, most DLC packs you kind of forget about the next day. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I think they're certainly leading the market with variety. You know, Gran Turismo may have more numbers, but they don't necessarily have the variety that Forza has.
No, I would hate to be them at the moment, sort of seeing how well Forza Horizon 3 is doing.
And the Assetto Corsa patch has done very well as well. It's fixed the game, so yeah, they're probably sweating a bit right now, I think.
Yeah.
Well, and also you say about car lists on Gran Turismo, you've got to take them with a pinch of salt because there could be like 30 different types of Honda S2000. So
and MX-5 and Skyline and goodness knows what else. Yeah,
I've just looked at the Vulcan. Actually, it's the first time it's ever appeared in Forza, and it's only ever appeared in mobile games like Real Racing and CSR.
I thought it was in Drive Club.
Not according to IGCD.
I don't remember seeing it in Drive Club. No,
it's not. It's not in Drive Club. I think it's too new a car to be able to feature in Drive Club because they stopped supporting it from a certain point.
Yeah.
I bet though, if they were still making content for it, it would have appeared in it. That's the sad thing.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Aston Martin Vulcan.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's in Drive Club.
Oh, okay.
It is in there somewhere. I've got a video driving it somewhere. In fact,
Oh, really?
I'll take a look actually and find video evidence if I can.
Frantically searching the internet.
I'm going to take a look on the Drive Club list. You guys carry on. I'm just going to find this because I definitely drove it in one of my Drive Club videos.
You sure not mixing it with a different Aston?
Yeah, I'm thinking Vantage, maybe Vanquish.
No, it was that one.
Okay.
Let's find the Drive Club. Problem is, I made 70 Drive Club videos.
All right.
So it's just to kind of take it.
We won't believe you until you supply us video evidence.
No, video evidence has got to be done, hasn't it? Oh.
I'm pretty certain it's not in. I just checked IGC.net, the Internet Games Car database. It's like plug.
No,
there.
it's not. No,
It's not plug.
sorry, no, I am wrong. It was the Icona Volcano.
Ah, yes.
So that's what I'm getting mixed up with.
I was going to say, IGCD is never wrong.
No, it's not.
No.
It's great site. Visit it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I actually started that site 10 years ago this year, which is scary.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Decades
It's a whole
Decades
decade.
old.
It's been a whole decade. I actually forgot the day. It just happened. It's like, oh, yeah, that was a year. That was 10 years ago, wasn't it? But someone else reminded me.
Right, shall we move on?
Probably should.
Yeah.
Yeah, what other news have we got then? So, Mantis Burn Racing.
Yeah.
Release date has been confirmed for that. It's not very far away, we'll say that much. It's coming out next week, in fact, on October 12th, which is a nice surprise. Kind of top-down racing. We touched on it quite a bit last week, but it's a kind of modern-day top-down racer, a bit like Micro Machines and was it Death Rally and stuff like that.
Albeit with no power-ups.
With no power-ups, yeah, that is one of the things I was surprised about, and it's something I flagged up to the developers when I interviewed them. But they really want to put the focus more on the racing. I think they think the power-ups are a bit gimmicky sometimes and distract from that.
Yeah.
I can see what they mean.
Yeah.
It's annoying, like in Mario Kart, when you suddenly get hit by a blue shell, like meters from the finish line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks a lot of fun.
You need the racing itself to be captivating enough.
Yes.
And I think that's really how good is the racing, and is it enough on its own? And wouldn't it have been nice to have had a weapons mode in there and a race mode as well? And I think that would have made a nice addition, because it definitely helps occasionally having some weapons just to, even if it's like a machine gun
a bit,
or something.
Yeah. Actually, on the subject of that, Racing Apex has a weapons mode, and they also have traditional racing mode. So they do have that option. So there are games out there that do that. Yeah.
Where is the demo for that game? It was supposed to be.
They announced that back in May. So.
Oh my god! Really?
Was that 5 months away, since? So yeah, they've had 5 months to put a demo together, and
this is the problem. I completely forgot about that game until obviously we just mentioned it.
Well, people will forget. 5 months down the line is an awful long time, especially for an indie title. So you've really got to be on the ball.
Yeah, I mean, they're still posting updates about it, but nothing of any substance.
Yeah.
It's just like random clips and stuff like that, but no actual solid news. So I don't know what's happening with that one.
No.
We'll have to try and find out. But yeah, Mantis Burn Racing out next week on all consoles and PC. No price details yet, although the early access version is $9.99. So whether that'll follow suit on the other platforms, I don't know. Would you pay $9.99 for it, for what we've seen so far?
I think it looks fun. It reminds me of games of old, really, particularly without the power-ups there. Yeah, so it does appeal to me personally, because I've played games like this over the years, and to see it come back is nice, because we're missing these sort of games without the power-ups. Just focus on the racing action. Make it good, make it solid, have confidence in your product, so much so that you can forego the power-ups and just concentrate on that racing. And I think Mantis Burn is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I just hope that sort of new players who may not have...
Will it engage the new players? Yeah, that's a good question.
Will other more new players who didn't sort of go through that era of top-down racing really appreciate it as much?
It's a good question. I mean, only time will tell, I guess, but...
Yeah, is it still relevant? Is it really more of a sort of nostalgia game than anything else?
Possibly, yeah.
For a cheap sort of indie title, it's got quite good production values.
It does look pretty solid, doesn't it?
Resolution, don't forget.
60 frames, yeah.
Yeah, true native 4K resolution. Apparently the only game of its kind on PS4 Pro.
Amazing.
Which I guess isn't surprising for a top-down racer, but there we go.
Mhm.
It's still an achievement nonetheless. So definitely one Alan will like, 60 frames and true 4K, native 4K.
Ooh.
Interesting. WRC 6 is going to support PS4 Pro as well, I found out
Ah, okay, that's cool.
Interesting.
from the developers. He couldn't really give me much concrete information.
I imagine
No.
it's the VR, perhaps.
No, I think it'll be frame rate. It'll be frame rate or resolution in the
He
short
told,
term.
he told me there will be performance improvements and
In VR.
resolution, but
Yeah,
he
yeah.
said there was no guarantee it'll be 60.
Well, it has to be in VR. Yeah, I mean, I've been speaking to different developers about stuff, and of course, Digital Foundry were also saying that the resolution is better on games in VR. There's more, it's sort of less sort of anti-aliasing effects. Effects from lack of anti-aliasing. So resolution is one thing, but as for the extra power, I mean, different developers are saying different things to me. In terms of there is more power, but not quite enough to turn a 30 frames per second game into a 60 frames per second game. And sometimes it's easier, it seems, just to do 4K 30 frames than it is 1080p 60 frames. So I think we're going to see a lot more 4K 30 frames from 1080p 30 frames, that kind of difference rather. And for me, the resolution, I don't know, I mean, is it enough? I don't know. For me, frame rate always means more to me than resolution. Once you reach 1080p, you're at a good resolution for me in the short term. Let's get frame rate and detail up there first.
So it's not really future proof, and it doesn't really cater for the past either, because it's not backwards compatible, which leads me on nicely to the Xbox One.
Yeah,
new racing game released for Xbox One backwards compatibility from the 360 with MX versus ATV Reflex. Not a game I'm that familiar with. They seem to keep releasing quite obscure titles. Like we want Burnout Paradise, we want Forza, Project Gotham, games like that. So I'm a bit surprised to see such a specialist title like that. But I guess it was quite popular back in its day. I don't know if any of you ever played that particular title. I get them all mixed up. I probably have played it, but
yeah, same here. I mean, they've released a lot of titles, haven't they? The MX versus ATV series.
Yeah.
I don't believe I've had a go at any of the games. I might have done, but I don't remember. So it is not familiar for me personally. Not sure if Alan or Ed has had any experience with the MX versus ATV series.
Yeah, I've played them. Yeah, I've played them. They're good fun games. I think they're very playable. I think visually they were quite solid. But yeah, then they just kind of went away. And then I think we even had a developer interview somewhere. I don't even know if it went up. Whoops if it didn't. But yeah, I mean, it was. And then it came out as a budget release a couple of years ago. And
which was then re-released on current platforms.
Yeah, so it's got a fan base out there, but I think it just needs more investment now to be brought up to date. And I think at the moment, the dirt biking genre, it went through a very, very bad phase actually, where they were just crap basically for 10 years, and then like you say, MX versus ATV came in and was good. So it just depends when the right developer gets something. I mean, like this year, MXGP wasn't what we were hoping it was going to be, MXGP2, and I think that, but the developers got the potential there to do better. And let's wait and see what they do with the new consoles as well. I think maybe we'll start to see some of the potential. I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes.
We had the news recently that Burnout Paradise is still coming to Xbox One backwards compatibility, which is good to hear. Although it's taking a hell of a long time. That's certainly a game I wouldn't mind revisiting. I'm quite a huge Burnout fan.
Yeah, they're a couple of years behind, aren't they, on it, really? All of this should have been done day one.
Yeah, it was last October they announced it, apparently.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that's
exactly
a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's worth the wait.
It will be worth the wait, especially as there hasn't really been a proper Burnout game since Burnout Paradise, which came out 10 years ago now, almost.
Goodness me.
Almost. I think it was about 8 years, something like that. Yeah, that's certainly a game I would like to see brought back.
Yeah.
But again, it's another series where the license holders don't seem to know what to do with it. They're sort of sitting on this popular franchise, a bit like Wipeout and games like that, but they just don't seem to know where to take it, which is a shame. I guess obviously Criterion have been downsized quite a bit, but it's surprising to see they're now working on projects such as Star Wars Battlefront and things like that. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe one day. I guess we still got the what was it? The spiritual successor coming out from, is it Free Fields?
Yeah.
The ex-Criterion guys.
Still unnamed title. So,
yeah, I'm dying to see something of that, I must admit.
Yeah, well, we haven't seen anything. We don't know the title name. We know nothing of the title. So
I don't know what to call it.
Yeah.
Probably something similar to Burnout, but not Burnout.
Yeah.
There we go. They'll probably call it Shiny Red Car.
Absolutely.
Only fans of the original game will appreciate. Anyway, so I think just to finish up, and obviously next week we've got the release of the much anticipated PlayStation VR headset. Certainly a lot of demand for it. So I thought it would be interesting to see what are our most anticipated VR titles other than Drive Club VR, because that's the obvious answer.
Well, for me, it's easy. It's the modern zombie taxi company. It's you get to drive around all these zombies. Yeah, you're driving around. You see all the zombies flying about in the back of your cab, in Zombie Town, no less. And it looks a great deal of fun.
It does look pretty funny. When you stamp on the brakes, do their bodies then fly out the car?
They do. Right, and when you hit the accelerator, they all lean back with the surprised expressions on their faces. So it is actually, in all seriousness, it does look like a lot of fun. And if I can get hold of it, I will certainly get a lot out of it. And
So
it does actually look like a lot of fun.
It genuinely does. Yeah,
I'll just say this: I'm just looking at the official trailer on PlayStation by PlayStation. It's got 802 likes, 700 dislikes.
Oh, really?
Wow!
We're so serious, aren't we, these days?
I know people are just so serious. Chill out. I actually think it's pretty funny. I think when you're in a car sitting there with a load of zombies' bodies falling about, I think it's going to be quite, it'll be quite entertaining. So, we'll see if we can get some access to that. And
I don't think that's coming out though at launch. I'm looking at the launcher list. I don't see it. I also don't see it in the list of titles coming out this year.
No, it's to be released in 2014. It's definitely 2016. Sorry, it's definitely coming out in 2016.
Originally it was supposed to be a launch title, so that's news to me actually. Okay.
So we'll definitely keep an eye on that.
That's sports bar VR. That looks promising.
Yeah. Well, for me, obviously, what is there? What is there first? There's the demo that I like. What is it?
Star Wars Battlefront.
Yeah, there we are. The Star Wars demo is amazing. So Star Wars demo.
I just want to kill you for playing.
Yeah. There's a couple of others. I mean, I've played quite a few VR titles, so there's quite a few I've played here. Volleyball was good fun on the Vive, for example. I don't know how good it will be. It won't be as good on PlayStation VR. Star Trek Bridge Crew was great fun on Oculus Rift, fantastic. You really did feel like you was a member of Starship Enterprise. And I think it was great when I was in a room with like 4 other people with VR headsets and we were all talking to each other, telling each other what to do.
Cool.
But online it has real potential, So Star Trek Bridge Crew is an interesting idea. Besides that, Res is my big sort of launch game because I love Res. Just for the idea of being in that sort of 3D space. But I was very impressed with Battlezone as well. I think Battlezone, you really felt a part of that tank. Though I was a little bit concerned about possible motion sickness at times in Battlezone. So that was the only thing I think could be an issue there. And other than that, there's lots of interesting stuff to look forward to. I mean, 203 developers, it says here. 230 developers are working on VR titles now. Wow. So, whatever happens, it will grow on PlayStation VR. But this is first gen, and I think we're going to keep saying that. It is first gen. It's not perfect resolution yet. Won't be for a few years yet. But either way, it's a lovely sort of taster of the future. And I hope it's good enough. And the Vive certainly is. But whether PlayStation VR is as a mid-price VR, I personally don't think it's a bad price for a VR headset. I think it's a really reasonable price to get in there, and just wait and see. But I think the Neo's not quite got the power to power Generation 2 headsets. So they are going to stick with this headset for some time.
That's it. I agree with you on Battles. I think that's probably my most anticipated, apart from Drive Club. Obviously, I tried it at EGX and came away very impressed. It's so immersive, and like you say, you really get that feeling of being there. And I just love the stylized visuals as well. It feels like you're in Tron, basically. It's very cool as well, having to look. You have to shoot at targets and actually physically look up to see them hover over you and stuff like that. So that's really good. Also, I think one of my other anticipated ones is Radial G.
Yes.
I played it a fair bit before. It's basically the only futuristic racer on PSVR at the moment. You sort of race on tubular tracks and that kind of thing. But again, the sense of speed really does hit you. I don't think that's going to be available at launch, though, sadly, by just reading Eurogamer's.
No. Very few racing titles at launch. Is it just Drive Club, actually?
I think it's just Drive Club.
I think it's going to be just Drive Club for some time. Digital Foundry said that they felt Drive Club was the best PlayStation VR experience available at launch. So they were very keen because driving games can be complete games, whereas everything else is sort of glorified demos to an extent. So there's only so many things you can do with some of them. But I think when you have sort of, like you'll have new versions of Titanfall, for example, running on VR one of these days. You'll be inside your mech walking around, and then you'll be jumping out and running about in 3D. VR of the future is going to be awesome. The question is PlayStation VR good enough to do full VR experiences? And the feedback so far is that it's not quite good enough in terms of its tracking's not good enough, and the move controllers aren't good enough. They're good for what they are, but they're not good enough to do what the Oculus and the Vive are doing with, 3D space.
The moves, for example, are quite old technology.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. They're old technology, and they're combined with the old PlayStation camera. Now, even Vive has 2 light boxes you place in different corners of the room, so they can track. They're both tracking you all the time. With PlayStation, you have just one. If you turn at certain angles, it loses tracking. So
I'm slightly worried about that because my space isn't the largest. So obviously, having enough room for the camera to detect it is a worry.
I will say this: on my experiences of PlayStation VR, I've had no problem at all. So if that's of any benefit there, I've not encountered any problems in my limited experiences on it so far.
No, it's interesting. This link that you posted in the chat, Alan. This tweet about PSVR possibly to the rally.
Possibly.
The dot at the end of that tweet is.
So they're working on. I mean, I did interview him early this year, and we did actually have a lengthy chat about VR in the interview because I was saying, let's talk about VR. We know it's coming, and they are very keen on VR. So I think that tweet alludes to the fact that there could be a dirt rally VR option for PS4 next year.
Possibly. I mean, the tweet does read, for those of you that haven't seen it, it says, someone has asked, I don't suppose there's any chance of Dirt Rally going to be in PSVR. And they said, well, I'm not allowed to confirm anything, which is always telling. But suffice to say, we have VR working on PC, so ... It's very leading.
I mean, I've seen the Dirt Rally VR trailer for the PC, Oculus Rift. I wasn't entirely impressed. The resolution for me seemed pretty poor, considering I've seen other titles which look okay. So, I mean, it'd be a big challenge to get Dirt Rally working on the PSVR, I believe.
It's quite a complex game, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, you may need the new sort of tech to do that. But, it does open the door for future titles like Formula One with VR support in the future. So, it's good to see.
No, but all the same, I think Drive Club is going to set the standard there from what we've seen, and from what I've played as well at EGX for all of 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it's the first title, so it's got all of its own, like it's got the space to itself, so it's going to kick some butt.
The best thing I can say about Drive Club VR is that it works.
It does, yeah. So there you are.
It didn't make me feel sick.
No.
It was just like playing a normal game in VR with not that much compromise that you can really notice.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I will say about PlayStation VR is, according to Digital Foundry, it runs at 60 frames, and then they have a technique which duplicates those frames so that it appears to run at 120 frames. But really, it's a computer technology that's like a motion flow you see on TVs. It blurs the frame. So in theory, Dirt Rally runs at 60 already. So with obviously some graphical reduction and tweaking, they could manipulate a version that runs at 60 frames cleanly and better, up to 90. And yes, there'll be reduced graphics, but it's possible on the PS4. I think it will look better, much better on the PlayStation Pro, and I'm sure that's probably what they're testing right now.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah.
It's interesting. So the sort of between frames are maybe slightly blurred between each other or something, so that they can get a bit more of a smoother effect.
Something like that. Yeah, there's some kind of technique that somehow blurs the frames a bit to make it appear smoother. So the image is guessing where the pixels are going and stuff like that, depending on how image is moving and stuff. So it could create some blurry effects occasionally sometimes, but it would just seem like you're slightly out of focus for a second, I guess, if it's really intense.
I guess it's a good compromise for the early VR tech. These things have to be put forward to get the games running, and of course in the future we won't need that blurring effect. So,
I've had it. The only experience I've had with something similar is in Final Cut Pro. When you slow down footage, you can use the option to use two different effects. One of them is a effect where it takes the frames that, because if you slow down footage enough, then it becomes jumpy because you're sort of splitting the frames apart so much. And what it will do is it will sort of do a bit of a crossfade between each frame. And then the other one that it does is actually where it looks at each frame and then makes up something in between that is sort of like a continuation between the two. I imagine it's probably the first of those two where you've got sort of a maybe slight sort of
like a blending.
But it works really well. I mean, I slowed down a piece of footage where I think I was like panning past a wheel or something on Forza Horizon. You slow down the footage a bit because I wanted to extend that clip, and then you use the blur in between each thing. You couldn't tell at all that it had been slowed down. So I think that sort of effect could work quite nicely in VR. It probably will trick your eyes quite well.
Yeah, good tricks.
Good tricks.
Yeah, they'll be. I mean, they're also using they've upgraded the screens that are in the headset from ones we apparently used on earlier versions. So that's why it looked less pixelated, despite a lower resolution than the Vive and the Oculus. But either way, I mean, we haven't got one yet to try it for longer periods on. But when we do, Martin, you should have yours near enough on release day. So we'll be looking to you for all of our information feedback on that.
Indeed, I'm very much looking forward to it. It's a nice sort of step forward for into the world of VR.
Yeah, next week. Can you believe it? It's gone so quickly. Oh.
It's scary, isn't it? Yeah,
it's so exciting, though, isn't it? It's especially for the racing genre. I mean, I'll be like a kid at Christmas when I do get hold of one eventually. But very exciting.
I mean, I'm more excited about this than I think I was the launch of the PS4 in some way.
It's like that, isn't it? It's that good. So
it is. Yeah, it's something genuinely new. Whereas when the PS4 came out, it was another new console.
Yeah, absolutely.
It didn't quite have the same. I missed that kind of anticipation for a new console.
Yeah. I felt like that when the Vive arrived. I was like,
exactly. Yeah,
buzzing when the Vive arrived. I was like, I just want to get it on, and I do love it.
It makes sense because they are kind of marketing the PSVR as like a new console almost. So it makes sense in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to get back onto the Vive soon. Obviously, I've been working on stuff behind the scenes for a while, but I'm going to get back into some more video production, and I've got a lot to catch up on with the Vive. So I'm going to go through a whole series of videos and VR experiences there, which I'll be sharing on VVV as well, because a lot of it's relevant cockpit experiences and stuff like that. And of course, in the VR section, we'll cover as many experiences as possible. Not just the racing ones. I really think VR is a whole area that I'm interests me as a gamer, and that I think can interest racing fans as well for various different experiences. So look forward to that and seeing how it develops. And there's going to be so many VR games coming out. It's going to be so well supported. I mean, apparently now, nowhere's taking pre-orders now till December. It's going to be really hard to get hold of. It will be the Christmas toy that everyone's going to want. There's no doubt about that. Let's just hope it lives up to expectations, and that more developers can come up with ideas that use VR with the limited equipment they have available.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot riding on it as well, because like I said before, it is pretty much Sony's entire first-party lineup for this Christmas, without now that GT Sport's gone. Actually, I think saying that, about the exception of The Last Guardian, is it? I think that's out in December.
Apparently.
Apart from that, though.
Yeah. What can go wrong between now and then? The Last Guardian, it's been due out now for 6 years?
Is it that long?
Yeah, something like that now. Yeah, it's the most delayed game ever, apparently. So even more delayed than a Gran Turismo game. So it's a pretty delayed game, I'll say that. So is it any good? That's the problem. When it eventually comes out, we'll wait and see. No Gran Turismo Sport. It's a shame. I was quite looking forward to a Christmas of Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
I know it wasn't looking like everything we wanted it to be, but either way, the delay will no doubt do it good. I think that they'll have listened to content like ours. There's no doubt they've watched some of our content, and they're taking it on board. I think one of the things one of them I mentioned, like audio, for example. You drove into a tunnel, and it was like you were just driving on normally. The tunnel had zero effect, and people thought that I was talking about a reverb effect of your engine. No, I'm talking. You drive into a tunnel with a few super sports cars, and the sound is amazing. It's wonderful. It's loud, echoing. You're hearing other people's cars even more than your own car. It's the sound is going away from you. It's a great effect, and there's none of that in it. There was just none of that wind or echoing or hearing the other cars in a tunnel. It was just like you were just driving along, hearing your own car as usual, and it just lacked that sort of atmosphere, that sort of detail. So there's a lot of details that I hope they bring to the game, and I think they seem to be indecisive of whether it was, like you say, GT Sport or GT7. And you think, well, it's not GT7 because it doesn't have the actual GT mode in there, in terms of starting from your little rubbish car and working your way up. So I think they're having to have a rethink, because it's taken so long to make this game that if it comes out and then they say, well, now we're going to start working on GT7, you're going to say, yeah, it's going to take 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, by then, the PlayStation 4 will be so out of date that is there any point? Perhaps you better wait for the PS5 and just release it on there. But hell, GT, knowing them, they'll release it on the PS4. They always release games at the end of the life of the console. So
yeah, they're not exactly known for being timely.
No, I mean GT6 and GT4 were both released at the end of the console's history lifespan. So
just give us a prologue.
Yeah, a prologue would be nice, wouldn't it?
At this point. Anyway, I think that's about it actually for this podcast, unless anyone else has anything else to add.
No, I think we've gone pretty long tonight, haven't we?
Yeah.
Decent.
They are getting longer. Okay, well, that's it from us then. Thanks as always for listening, and we'll see you again next time. Goodbye.
PSVR is out next week.
Yay!
I love PlayStation.